welcome again. Most of you already heard all of our rap sheet yesterday, and it's so lovely to actually see familiar faces and connect stories with faces today. I believe I recognize most of you from yesterday's session. There's just a couple of new people, but I'm sure I'll get to know you during this session as well. Yeah, I'm excited to get going today. Is all about finances, managing cash flow, budgeting in your business. So I want to hear from you guys. What do you currently do in your business to manage your finances, manage your cash flow, your budget? Do you use any software or any specific method? Yeah, let's learn from each other. What is it that you use? Even if it's pen and paper, that's also a tool. Just let me know what is it that you're using. Or are you at a place where there's not really much cash flow yet? That's also something you can share. I'd love to hear from you guys.
Sorry, I was out for a minute. What was the question? Sorry.
Sorry? Must I repeat the question?
Uh-huh. Sorry, I was out for a
Oh,
minute, so I didn't get it.
no worries. No, I wanted to find out what practices and tools are you currently using in your businesses to manage your cash flow and your finances.
Hmm. Okay.
Do you have anything, David,
Hmm.
since you're
So let me
unmuted?
organize my thoughts, and I'm gonna share.
Okay, cool. Okay, I see some people that want to share. Ton, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My business, especially where I gain my funds, like when I just started with that is very small business. I used to like wash clothes for some of the teachers who were in our school. From there, I earn some little money. From there, then I have to start a business which is of liquid soap, whereby I have to produce it. The school will buy it. At the same time, I take it to the community. They also buy it. From there, I start acquiring a little profits. From there, I started like training students at school on how to make that liquid soap. From there, at least each and every one of them was able to contribute little money because when attending the training which I'm conducting. From there, then I start earning little profit. From there, I started extending to other schools also, such that I trained them. They also acted as my partners. Whenever they want to make their liquid soap, they come and contact me, and I kind of like provide them with the materials for liquid soap. There, they became my agents. I became now their supplier, and they actually go and produce theirs at the same time. And the school that I go for training, I train them, and from there I'm able to earn a little profit that I can use to expand my business. So that's how I earn my profits and how I earn my money to continue with business. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you for sharing. And do you write it down anywhere? Do you keep a record of money that comes in and goes out? How do you keep track of the money that comes in and out in your records?
Sorry, I didn't get you right.
So I'm asking, you explained the process now of how you make money and what you do with it, but I want to find out, do you write down all of the transactions somewhere? Do you use some software to do that? What is your process of keeping record of the finances of your business?
For the training that I conducted, I actually go just school by school and individually. That's where I get to like I come into contact with them. Then from there I'm able to like collect that money from them that I can use and serve for my business. That's the kind of transaction that I do with them. I deliver them myself to the schools. Then I get the money in cash myself.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ton. Jumana.
So the question was, what is your financial plan, right?
Yeah, so just what do you do within your business? How do you keep record of your finances? Do you use any tool or yeah, just how do
Yeah,
you deal with finance?
sure. Okay, I'm gonna share a small story I did about financial plan. Just let me know if you can see it. Uh,
All right.
can you see
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah.
So here. So this is the market, and here is me, the little business. And here, should I go and cry? No, we don't do this. So we need to be strong in this market paper. So I'm doing
Nice.
a plan. So my plan is really so quick. I'm gonna let me just be again with you. So my plan is really simple. I try to do the basic thing to just I wanted to make using something like Notion. So this makes me visualize everything the what I did by the elements I do for my newspaper, the print, the ink, and also I have considered the transportation as in my area there I should like I'm doing this newspaper and give it to schools, and this needs for me money to transport this newspaper. So I
Mhm.
try to make a table and do the basic thing. I'm not try to make it so complex, adding like 5 years or I have a visualization about what I want to do in future, but also I don't do some small details because it will distract me in my plan. So I'm just like doing one step forward to help me in organize my money and organize the things I'm doing right now. So yeah, this is like really quick about my financial plan.
Thanks for sharing, Jemana. Sorry, my other account just disconnected. Just give me 1 minute to reconnect my camera on the other
No
side.
worries.
David, you can go ahead so long and share. I can hear you.
You guys can hear, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the question was like, how are you like controlling the finance, like the financial method of your business, right? Like how are you controlling the cash in and the cash flow
Yep.
happening? So yeah, so like as the founder of Bunna, like my personal experience with managing earning, like managing and earning and expenses has been an ongoing learning process. So like since we are not like fully that much digitalized, we rely on like manual methods to keep track of our finances so far. And one of I think the primary ways we track our earning is like by keeping like a logbook of all sales made. So each sale is recorded by hand, including, for example, the type of product sold, the price, the level of the quality of the coffee product, like each by label. And we also record the date and time of each sale, which help us to identify trends in our sales. For instance, for example, like we can see which products are most popular, and also in which days of the week have these products have the highest sales. It helps us to locate this kind of information for our business. We also like issue physical receipts to customers for each purchases. These receipts are then used to track like daily and weekly sales made. And by looking at like the total amount of receipts collected, we can also get an accurate sense of our daily earnings and how they like compare, to previous days or weeks of sales made. And yeah, like keeping track of our expenses is equally important. We maintain a manual record of all of our costs. This can be include like the cost of the beans that we get received from the suppliers, for the price and the cost for the packaging materials, for the rent for our physical shops, and also salaries for our employees. I currently have around 6 employees under me. So by recording our expenses, we can identify, the areas where we might be overspending and make adjustments to, improve our profitability in the journey. So yeah, like also like these like manual methods can be more time consuming than digital ones. So, but like even though they have helped us to stay on the top of our finances and make informed decisions about the direction of our business. So like overall, to just summarize, managing like earning and expenses is a critical part of our running business so far, and I'm constantly looking for ways to streamline our processes and like improve our financial management so far. Yeah, that's so far.
Great. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing, David.
Thank you.
Okay, exciting. So just one question for you, David, is you say you keep manual, you don't use digital tools. Is that because of connectivity or just you haven't identified the correct tools?
I mean like one way, for example, like to use digitalized system. I think also we use we require the amount to purchase like the digitalized tools. It can be computers and stuff for the stuff. And currently, like we're not able to like purchase like the exact amount of for example, it can be computers, the exact amount of computers for the exact number of financial like internets that I have. So but like we're really working closely like to solve this problem, and yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Okay, okay. No, great. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Arif, you also have your hand up.
All right, thank you for this opportunity. I'm glad to be back again. So the question was like, what is the like how are you managing your business cash flow and your business catching? So to start with my business is retail shopping where I can sell my products on retail. So how I'm managing my business is I do bring in my products, and because I'm living in a village society, I'm living where people are not a little bit civilized. So I'm managing it because I do bring in the products which are well known in the society. Because sometimes if you bring in the products which are not well known in society, people will not believe that those products are good for them. So I bring them in and I make maybe market research on how I should interact with my customers and how they should know about the product that I will bring in. So that will maybe a little bit extend or expand my business because people will buy things that they know and they will have good access to the product that I will bring in. So recently, I just expand my business in a nearest town, which is Town. So I established another branch of my business in that town because my business was in the camp, and due to the profit that I made, I extend it to the nearest town so that it will be a little bit bigger. So that's how I'm managing it because as long as I will be expanding it, I will be managing it in another way. So that's how I'm managing it. So another point is that I'm also managing my business through investment or giving loans to other business people like business companies. The little amount that I have, I always give it on loan so that I will have some good amount that will come back to my business so that my business will be stable. So that's what I'm doing. So some 2 months back, I just give a loan to Food Bank, the bank which is in the town of Bor. So I just give them 200,000 South Sudanese pound, which is equivalent to 800 US dollars. So and in May, I will take 400 South Sudanese pound, 400,000 South Sudanese pound, which is equivalent to 1,600 US dollars. So that's how I'm managing my business. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, okay, let's get into my presentation. Can the host please just allow me to share my screen? so that I can share my presentation. While they do that, I see your hand is also up, Shams. And now it's gone, so I don't know if you actually want to speak. But you can if you want. Yeah.
Can I start?
Yep.
Okay. Talking about managing my business and planning for the financial plan and these topics. As my business is a website, so first of all, the main goal of the website is for me is to publish it to make more people know it. So there must be an equilibrium between money invested in marketing for the website and the income of the website. And this will take a huge effort to find the good place to find your target audience, and this is what I'm working on in this period. Um, Also, we're working on developing, investing money in developing the website to make it easier for the users. All these things are measured in this time and searched in to know more details in this time to set a financial plan right for this project. This is all.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen yet. I can't. I hope the team is getting onto it. Okay, but I'll start talking so long while the team sorts that out so that I can share my presentation. All right. So when it comes to the topic of this session, which is budgeting and cash flow planning, that is something that is really, really good for any business to do. So firstly, just what is it? Budgeting is essentially just a plan for your money. It's where you write down all of your income, be that any sales that you make or investments that you get, any source of income that you have and how much it is, based on a specific period of time. And then you also write down all of your expenses that you are planning for. So in a month, like Shams, you have a website, so you have your website costs, maybe you have a plugin for your emails, things like that that you pay on a monthly basis. That is all the expenses that you would write down. For you, David, that shared, it's your resources and your staff and your rent. That is all of your expenses that you'll write down. And essentially, you use a budget to make sure that whatever money I have and the money that's coming in will be able to cover my expenses and what is going out. And while you do that, you're also able to prioritize your expenses to make sure that you're spending your money on the most important things. So, for instance, if your business is a coffee business like David, and you have a coffee shop, for you to be able to continue operating, you have to pay your rent and you have to buy your resources and you have to pay your staff. So those are your most important expenses. And then there might be some secondary expenses that are still important, but it's not going to stop your business from running. So maybe there's marketing, which is a very important expense. But if in a month your income is very, very tight, that's actually a place where you can maybe cut down a little bit. So that just you can try and prioritize your most important expenses first, and then go towards what other expenses you'd like to do or put money into business development. Okay. Sorry, guys, just give me one moment. All right. Okay. So let me just see something here. Okay. So do you understand kind of what a budget is for? Just give me a thumbs up if you're good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now we get to kind of cash flow planning and what's the difference between your budget and your cash flow planning. So you actually, let me just go. Let me share my screen. Yay, okay. Good. Okay. Then we get to cash flow planning. And cash flow planning is essentially any real liquid money that's going to come in and out of your business. So, for instance, you may know that you are going to make a certain amount of sales, or you make a certain amount of money from your business. That is the cash that will come into your business, and then again you have to pay certain expenses, and that is the cash that will flow out of your business in a certain period of time. But sometimes what happens is, for instance, if you have customers that have to pay you at a certain point and they don't pay you immediately, you still have to pay certain expenses. So now there's an imbalance or a mismatch between when money comes into your business and when it has to go out of your business so that you can keep going. And this is actually a very, very scary place where about 80% of businesses, small businesses, fail because of this thing of cash flow. Because if your customers don't pay you on time, that means you still have to pay for your expenses, you still have to pay your suppliers, but there's no money coming in currently. And if you don't have a reserve to cover those expenses, then you can actually go out of business because there is just no money in the business, even if you have had a lot of customers, a lot of sales, and a lot of people that are interested. If they are not paying you, then you won't be able to continue to operate. So that is why it is so important, and why we're going to stress that today. Okay. So what now? What do we do? What are the right steps to follow? So take you through a few top. So the first thing is just having a plan, right? A lot of you said it, that it's important to have a plan. But that's exactly why the first thing that I want to say is have a plan. If you don't know what's going on in your business and you don't know what's going on in your finances, you won't be able to set up a plan. And if you don't have a plan, there's no thought behind how you spend your money, what things you pay for, when you pay for them, how much you pay at a time, how much you buy at a time, and at what rate you expand your business, right? So you need to have a plan for at least the near future. I'd say about 3 to 6 months to have a plan for your business and how money will be flowing in and out of your business in that time. So for you today, I actually set up a little bit of a template, but I don't want to, so first, before I show that to you, I just want to see from you all is who of you, if you have access to a computer and you use Excel, just give me a thumbs up. I just want to see how common it is. Excel is this spreadsheet tool. Okay, I see I'm not showing that, but let me see who else. I've got a few thumbs ups. Okay, let me see thumbs down if you don't have access to a computer or Excel. Or if you've never heard of it, if I am talking something that you are not familiar with. Anybody that doesn't use it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I see a few. Okay, and if you haven't heard of it, do you have access to a computer or Google? I just want you, even welcome to just unmute and let me know. So I just want to see where everyone's at so that I don't talk about stuff that you guys don't have access to. So I saw two people, Fon and Amani, I believe, that said thumbs down. So for you to let me know, do you have access to a computer and maybe access to Google and Google Sheets? Just want to see what you're saying. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me. But everything that I share with you today if you're not able to have access to a tool like this, I'll give you a few options. Everything that I show you is possible with pen and paper. You can do it manually, you can do it by hand, and still achieve the same outcome. It's just going to take a little bit more time, but that's totally fine. Okay, so in line with that, let me share then our plan. Okay, so firstly, just for those who don't know, I'm using a tool here called Excel. It's EXCL. It's a Windows tool or a Microsoft tool for data management. It's actually very powerful. People use it for very many different things. But in this case today, we'll be using it just to write down certain data and information, and then do some simple calculations with that, like adding and subtracting our cash, okay, our money. So what I set up over here is it's essentially just a timeline. So you'll see here we have January 2023, February 2023, March, April, May, June, July. So every month of the year. And that's your top section over here. And then you'll see for each month, I have a planned and an actual column. So we all know that what we plan is not always what happens in reality, but we have to be able to make sure and measure whether we were able to stick to our plan in reality or not. So in plan is where we write down our plan for the upcoming, what really happened and how did that compare with the plan that I have. Then on the left-hand side, we have three categories. So first we have your income. So any different sources of income that you may have, like your sales is most people's main income, but there might be different types of sales or different products, or you might receive an investment, or anything like that, money coming into your business. Then the next category we have is your expenses, any money that's going out of your business. And then we'll just work out what the difference is between that income and that expenses. So we are currently in February, so it's coming up. So let's just do one for March. Firstly, you will try to estimate how much money will be coming into the business. So based on any set contracts that you have, existing contracts that you have, or based on your past history of sales and the money that comes in, you will write that down in years. So let's say you are consistently selling about $1,000 worth of products in a month. That is then what you'll come and put here. So whatever amount you expect to receive from your sales in a month. And let's say also in this month, okay, let's keep it simple, just sales. But then in order to make these sales, you need to pay rent for your shopfront, right? And let's say that is $200 in a month. Then you also need to pay your salaries, the salaries for your employees. And let's say that's about $300 in a month. Then you also need to buy your inputs for your raw materials. And let's say that's about $500 in a month. And then lastly, let's say you need to pay for electricity in that month. Let's say that's $100. Okay, so already what you can see here over here is that I'm using Excel to add together all of my expenses automatically. And that's the amount that's showing at the top here. Okay, you can do that by using what I call the sum function. And that's essentially just adding or summing together all of the amounts that's sitting here in your expenses. Okay. Then what I have here at the bottom is the balance amount, meaning I take what is flowing into my business minus what is flowing out of my business to see where I will be at. So firstly, we see a negative here, which is never good, okay? Meaning, and you can actually see it at the top there, meaning there's only $1,000 flowing into my business in this month, but there's $1,100 flowing out of my business. So that means I'm about $100 in a deficit that I won't be able to cover from those expenses, from that income in that month. So first, that's already a great realization to make, is as I plan for March, I can see my expenses are going to be higher than my income. So I need to make a plan. Firstly, I either need to see, is there an expense that I can cut down, or is there a plan I can make to make sure that I get more income in that month? So for instance, let's say I need to make a plan and I'm going to try and look for different suppliers for my inputs or my raw materials so that I can actually bring down the cost of my inputs to try and make sure that I can fit into my budget. So let's say you negotiate with your suppliers or you find a new supplier, and actually you're able to bring down that price to $400 instead of $500. Now we can at least see that we are matched in terms of what is coming in and what's going out. But that also means that we're not making a profit altogether, because what's coming in is equals to what's going out. I'm not making anything more than what I'm paying for my resources. So we need to make another plan. Maybe there is a special, you can say, okay, instead of just selling from the storefront, I'm actually going to take some of the products myself, and I'm going to go door to door and I'm going to go sell more products so that I can increase my sales. So you say, okay, I can estimate I can increase my sales to about $1,100 in a month instead of just 1,000. And now finally you can see, okay, we're making a profit. Okay, we are actually going to have $100 left over at the end of March, according to our estimates. So that's essentially the process that you follow when you're trying to budget for a month. You envision everything that's going to come in and try to estimate that, and then you estimate everything that's going to go out. And you want to make sure that for most months, and it's not always possible, but that is what is going out is less than what is coming in. Okay, but now we do have this $100 left over, meaning we have a reserve of $100, which is actually helping us start a little bit ahead in the next month. So let's say we now also want to plan for April. So I'm going to say again, my average sales is $1,000 a month, and I'm going to have the same expenses. So $200 for rent, $300 for salaries, $400 for my inputs, and then $100 for electricity. Okay. Then I made it 4,000. Sorry. Then what I just want to do is this balance over here must actually now look at what did I have left over from the previous month? Okay, what is still in my bank account, or what cash do I still have in my hand? Plus any sales that I'm going to make in that month that I'm estimating, minus any expenses that I might have in that month as well. Okay, so here we can see actually I will still have $100 in my bank account at the end of February, at the end of April. But actually, while you're doing this, you remember that actually April is usually not a great month for sales because of I don't know, the schools are closed, whatever the reason, but you know that usually my sales will go down a little bit. So let's say instead of $1,000 in April, you only estimate $900 in April. Then we can now see, okay, our income is less than our expenses by $100, but because we had this $100 left over or as a reserve from March, we will actually end up at a zero balance instead of a negative balance. Okay, so there our reserves helped us to help to carry us through April when our sales are usually a little bit lower. Okay, and this is the same process that you can follow for every upcoming month to try and see, am I going to hit any month where I have a negative amount of money? And how will I make a plan to make sure that I won't go out of business because I have no money or have more things to pay them. If people are understanding what I'm saying, does it make sense? Are you confused? Just use the reactions to let me know where you're at. Is it making sense? Okay, Jumana, thank you. Okay, thumbs up. Shams, thank you. Thumbs up. David, great. Okay, TK, thank you. Richard. Okay, anybody that's confused? Nobody? Okay, great. Okay, so just a quick side note. If you don't have access to a computer or Excel, you can use that exact same format on a piece of paper or in a book somewhere where you just write down all of your income, add them together, write down all of your expenses, and then subtract the two from each other so that you can see where your business might be at in the coming months. Okay, so you can do that on paper. If you don't have access to Microsoft or Excel, but you do have access to Google, Google also has Google Sheets, which is almost exactly the same as Excel, but it's just online. So then you'll be able to use Google Sheets for these same calculations. All right. Okay, so that was tip number one, is to have a plan. And I'd say for at least the next 3 months, try and write down what is the plan for those 3 months so that you can make a plan ahead of time, right? And not just only when you run out of cash, you now try to make a plan. You make a plan ahead of time so that the business can continue and be sustainable. Okay, then let me get back to sharing my screen. Then number two, measure yourself against that plan. Okay, so you might have a plan, but plans don't always come together like you plan. So you actually need to go and let's say now we plan for April or we plan for March, and you know kind of we're making good estimates, but you also need to see what really happened in real life. Okay, so back to my sheet. Let me open that again. So what you'll do now, and David described it very nicely, is you will keep a very detailed record of every transaction that you make, including any sale that you make of money coming in or any other source of money coming in, and then every transaction that you make of money going out. So this is just a simple way that you can use to write that down. So for instance, I wrote one here. Let's just make it in March. So in March, I have to pay for web hosting. That's $10. So as soon as that goes out of your business bank account or you go and pay them, then you write that down. Also in March, on the 2nd, you go and you buy your resources. So let's say you buy raw materials and you'll say raw material. Well, I think I put some inputs on the previous sheet. And you actually buy weekly inputs. So a week later, on the 9th, you also bought the same amount of raw materials. Then you write that down for, okay, and then let's say at the end of the month, you pay your staff, salaries, and you say that was $300 and that's salaries. So even if you do something multiple times in a month, you will keep a record of that. Oh, I didn't do any sales. So let's say we had sales on the end of March, on the 5th of March, for another $50. Okay, can you see how I'm going? I'm just every small transaction is being written down. And then when you come to the end of your period or the end of your month, you will actually come and add together all of the different categories. Okay, so you can do that in an automated way, or you can just do it manually. So for instance, here we can see we had bought inputs twice to a total of $400. So you come back to our template that we have over here, and now you will be filling in this actual column. So let's go see where we put inputs. Okay, inputs over here, we planned 400 and we spent 400. Great. Then we paid salaries of 300 only once. We planned 300. We paid 300. Okay. Then we had sales. Let's just expand this a couple more. We had a couple of sales to the total of $450. So our actual is 450. And then let's say we also put in the, but actually somebody left some lights or some machines on, so the electricity is a bit more than expected. So that is $300 instead of $100. Okay. So essentially what you're doing here now is you're going, okay, what really happened in a month and how does it work with what might be in the wrong place? Let's just put it in the right place. So firstly, we can see our sales were less than we planned, okay? And then secondly, we can see, okay, we did well, the salaries were the same, our inputs was the same, but actually something happened, our electricity was more than planned. Then you can also see over here, my sun is not working. Okay, then you can actually see over here, let me just add the rent because we have to pay rent for $200 at the start of the month. So that in here. So then we can actually see that our actual spend of for any expenses was $1,200 instead of $1,000, and our actual income was also lower. So now, if we look at the difference between this, instead of having $100 of excess or of a reserve, we're actually going to be short, or we were short in this month of $750. Meaning, either you had to figure out how to put more money into the business, maybe from your pocket, or you had to tell your suppliers, sorry, I can't pay my bills right now, which makes them mad in the first place, but you might also have to pay some interest on those bills. Okay, so now you can see, okay, what happened really in this month. And when you compare what happened really versus what was the plan, we also need to figure out, is there something that you need to do to correct and bring your reality closer to your plan? Okay, so firstly, we can see our sales were lower than we had planned. Now you need to investigate why. Why was my sales lower? Did we have to close the store? Was our staff do we not have all the ink that we needed, meaning we lost sales? How do we actually make sure that our sales are as close to what we estimated as possible? Or was our estimation incorrect? Did we say, up until this point, we've only been selling $400 worth of product every month, and now all of a sudden on our plan, we said we're going to sell $1,100. Then that sounds a little bit unrealistic, right? So then you need to adjust your plan to be more realistic so that it's more representative of what really might happen. Then if we come to our expenses, like we said, rent, salaries, inputs were great, but then electricity was 3 times what it was supposed to be. Again, investigate what happened there. Did someone leave a machine on or leave lights on? What is it that made my electricity so expensive this month? And then implement some corrective actions so that you can stick to your budget on electricity. Okay, so that is how you will kind of measure yourself against the plan and also try and correct either what happened within the business or correct your plan if your plan was actually inaccurate. And then you try again in the next month to have your plan as close as possible and have your what actually happens as close as possible to your plan. All right. Everybody good so far? Give me a thumbs up. Great. I see some nods. Okay, does it make sense? Okay, is it helping you? Okay. Okay, cool. Now we get to some, okay, so that's kind of the tool that you can use and the method to use for budgeting and cash flow planning. Now I'm just going to chat about some tips around your cash flow planning and budgeting. Okay. The next one, try to stay as lean as possible. Okay, so as you use that tool that I just showed you, try to see where is it that I'm spending unnecessarily on anything, or where, especially when you think about your month-on-month expenses, where am I paying too much for a service? Do I have unnecessary subscriptions that I'm not using that I can cut on? Because you want to make the monthly amount that you have to spend to keep your business alive as lean or as little as possible, so that if something happens, if your sales reduce, you can actually keep going a couple of months without having to close the business. Okay. So always, as you do your budget, as you do your plan, make sure that you ask yourself, how um, how important are these things that I'm putting on here? Can I survive without them? Especially if they don't fit into how much money you will be getting into that in on that month, as well as not being able to pay for certain things. Right? Stay lean. Stay very, very lean. Keep it simple. And then, David, to answer your question, yes, I will share that template with the safe team, and then they can just share it with you. Okay, our next tip: have good invoicing practices. Okay, so this is very important for any business where your customer doesn't pay you immediately. So usually when you sell everyday goods, you'll ask your customer to pay you immediately before they get the goods. But in most, or if you sell to a customer consistently on a month-on-month basis, especially another business, then they'll actually say, no, I'm not going to pay you for every time I buy. You're going to invoice me once a month or once every 2 weeks, and then I'll pay you based on what you invoiced me. And there are certain terms that goes around with that. But also, as you get more and more customers, it's harder to keep track of what invoice have you sent to which customer on which date, who has paid you, who has not paid you, when are they supposed to pay you, if you don't have good practices. Okay. In this case, again, you can keep manual record of it. So as soon as you issue out an invoice, you write down who was the customer, how much was the invoice for, and by when are they supposed to pay me. You make sure that you have that on record. Then as soon as they pay you, even if it's just a piece of the invoice, then again, you go to that record and you say, okay, on this date, they paid me half of the invoice. They're still due to pay me the other half of the invoice. So that at any point, your customer, you know exactly which of your customers have paid you, haven't paid you, how much do they still owe you, by when do they owe you that. And then as well, a lot of people dread doing invoicing. So they'll actually send invoices long after they delivered the service, or they'll only send invoices about once a month. But if you have good practices on invoices, you would actually try and send the invoices. So even, if you have a different customer every second day, you make sure that as soon as you're done with that customer, you send them the invoice, so that you don't get to the end of the month and you have a bunch of invoices to send out. And by that point, you had already waited 3 and 4 weeks for someone to pay you because you haven't told them, hey, you're due to pay me this amount for this service delivered. Okay. Talking about invoices, there are a few digital tools that you can also use. For instance, there is Xero and QuickBooks, that are services that I know about, but you can also look for, especially in your country, for any invoicing tools that are out there. What that will help you do is firstly keep a record of your invoices, but also be able to issue digital invoices to your customers regularly, and keep track of payments. Okay, so that's a very good practice to have as well. Okay, so what actually doesn't pay by the agreed date? Good question, Anani. Okay, so firstly, depending on the relationship between yourself and your customer, before you have an agreement in place, a legal agreement in place that stipulates what the payment terms are. So as you are still chatting about going into business, you can say, listen, our payment terms are that you have to pay me within 30 days of receiving an invoice. And if both parties sign that document, then already both of you know what the expectation is from you as a company. Within that agreement, you can also say, if you don't pay me within the stipulated due date, I'm going to charge you a certain amount of interest per month that you don't pay me, right? So if the agreement was that you have to pay after 30 days and the person doesn't pay, then immediately you can add, let's say, 5% interest on how much they owe you. So if they owed you $100 and they don't pay you in time, you add your $5, which is equivalent to 5% of that $100. Now, by the time they pay you, they actually have to pay you $105 instead of just that $100, so that you can make up for the time that you lost by them not paying. So that's one example. Another tip I have is make it easy for your customers to pay you, right? So there are many payment tools out there. Make sure you can use something like PayFast, or there's a lot of payment facilitating digital processes out there, so that it's not cumbersome for them to try and pay you. So, for instance, it's really cumbersome for a customer to have to come to you to pay you. So make sure you enable electronic payments, and beyond just going through the whole process of adding their details or your details to their bank account. If you send a payment link, then it's already easier to just for them to have your information and pay you immediately. So make it as easy as possible for your customer to pay you, and then make sure that you have agreed terms in terms of when you expect payment, and then if the agreed terms are that you can charge an interest on outstanding payments, then make sure that you do that as well. Okay, next up. If my screen wants to move on. Okay, this is very much in line with what you asked as well. Is, you know, what if they don't pay you? You have to be firm with your customers. They are going to try and take chances, and try and make sure that the repayment period is as short as possible. Usually, it's quite reasonable to have it at 30 days, which is for a small business already a very long period to wait for a payment. So try to not allow them to pay you more than 30 days after invoicing them. If for really big contracts, you can agree on maybe a payment schedule where they pay you a certain amount for 3 months after you delivered the service, so that you also just help them. But be firm. Try, be on their case, call them, see them, send them emails to say, listen, you owe me this amount of money. And what's even better is if you have a type of product in your business where you can cut off the customer's access to that product if they don't pay you. So, for instance, if your business is an online marketplace, and the person who uses the marketplace doesn't pay you to be on there anymore, then you can just cut off their access to it, right? That's how subscription models work. You don't pay, you lose access to it. If it's products, like physical products, what you can also do is, as soon as you see the customer is not paying you and they have stories about paying you, then you just say, listen, I'm not going to sell you any more products until you pay the previous invoices and the outstanding amounts. So really be firm with your customers. Remember that you are entitled to that money that the customer is owing to you because you already delivered the service. So it is totally okay for you to be firm with them and ask them, where's my money? Please don't do anything illegal though. Don't threaten them with their lives or take any of their documents or anything like that. That's not enough justification for doing anything. That's illegal. All right. Next up, try to build up some reserves for your company. Okay, guys, life and the world and the economy and people's funds available to them are always changing. So even if you have consistently sold a certain amount of, made a certain amount of sales for a whole year, just know that next month something can change and everything, I don't have the same amount of sales. Look at what happened during COVID. Businesses that were doing really well had to shut down all of the sudden because couldn't sell anymore. Okay, so the more reserves you can build up for your business, the more resilient your business would be. Okay, in personal finance, there's something that they call an emergency fund, but this is actually something that applies in business as well. And it's essentially just where you keep your reserves. So if you look at, just give me a moment. Sorry about that. I'm back. Okay, so if you do that template that we showed at the start and you fill in and you make a plan for all of the expenses that's going to come up in the coming months, then you can know exactly how much money you need in a month for your business to keep going, right? And in the startup world, they actually call that your burn rate, how much money you're spending in a month. And if you know that and you look at your reserve, you can calculate based on my reserves. So let's say you have $1,000 as reserves and it costs you $200 to operate your business every month. Then you know for 5 months, so 1,000 divided by 200, for 5 months my business will be okay if I don't sell anything, because I'll be able to pay my expenses from my reserves. So that is actually a goal that you can set up for your business to say, how many months do I want to be okay for? Do I want to be able to survive from my reserves? So how you'll calculate that is you'll take your monthly expenses. So again, we say that's $500 and you multiply it by how many months you want to be secured for. So let's say you want to be secured for 3 months, you'll say $500 times three, that's $1,500. And that will actually be your goal for building up reserves. And then you can say, I'm not going to spend any of my profits on expanding the business or buying new equipment or for myself. I'm actually going to contribute that to my emergency fund until I reach that goal of $1,500. And then I can start thinking of how can I now spend these profits on expanding the business, etc. Because you know that at least your business is secure if anything happens, and you're not able to sell as much as you were previously able to sell. Okay, then the next one. I know most of you are quite small businesses still, but especially if you don't have a financial background and you haven't studied how to do finances, it's always a good idea to get someone who does finance on a day-to-day basis. Okay, I'll answer your questions just now. It's always a good idea to get someone who works with the stuff every day to help you, right? You have your area of expertise, other people have their areas of expertise. And if you can actually get someone to look at your finances and that if they are an expert in finances, that will really help, even if it's not consistently. Maybe you can just consult once with a professional to ask them a couple of questions, ask them to give you some advice on how you're running your business, how you're doing your books, on your plans for the future. Then you're in the business, and they've given you some good advice. If it goes even better, you can get permanent accountants to figure out how can you make sure that your tax is ideal. So how you're paying your tax, how much tax you're paying, what things you're taking advantage of, are also good. So try as soon as you have enough money in your business, try and make use of a professional. So I can just, Arik asked, now please they may know the meaning of burn rate. Okay, so burn rate is just how much money your business spends in a month. So all of your expenses together, and then essentially, yeah, that's everything together, and you'll use that to calculate how many months your business will be able to go continue on without getting new sales in. Does that make sense, Arik? Okay, thank you. All right, I'm almost done with my tips. So this one is very crucial, and inventory equals tied up cash. So if you are a business that works with hard resources and hard products, and maybe you buy and sell products, or you buy raw materials to make products. Remember that as soon as you purchase a raw material or a product that you're going to sell again, you are tying up cash and real money into that product, and you're only going to see that in the form of cash again once you've made a sale, right? So if you buy, let's say you buy a lot of inventory at once, and it's actually going to be enough inventory for your to cover all of your sales for the next 3 months. That means that you'll spend 3 months worth of expenses essentially now, but you'll only see the first month return to you in cash after 1 month, and then another after 2 months, and then another after 3 months. So essentially, you spend money at once, and you only see at one time, and you only see the return of that coming in about 3 months' time. So you're extending or you're reducing the cash that you have available to you at a certain point in time, and you'll only see that in a couple of months down the line. So the advice here is to make sure that you keep your inventory levels as low as possible so that you're just able to service your customers, and try not to buy too much inventory and let it stack up, because that means that there's cash sitting right there. All right. Okay. And then there are some resources or some tools that you can use out there to help you with cash flow. Firstly, one that I actually didn't put on here, but it's in line with invoice financing, is I know in South Africa, our government actually makes allowance for people that have contracts to service the government, to actually go to the government and get funding for the initial resources that they have to buy. So let's say they get a contract for supplying a school with computers, and they win that contract. They're going to be the service provider. But actually now it used to be a small business, and they don't have enough capital to buy all of the resources that is needed for this big contract. Then the government will actually say, okay, we'll help you with an upfront injection of capital so that you can go and buy the necessary resources for this contract, and then you pay us back when the customer pays you. And this is not just true for government as well. There are actually companies that does invoice financing. So what I mean by that is, if you delivered a service, so this is actually a little bit different. So if you delivered a service to a customer and you invoice them, say they owe you $1,000, then you would actually go to this company and say, look, I invoiced this customer, they owe me $1,000, they're going to pay me back, they're going to pay me this money over the next 3 months. Okay, so I have proof that there is money that is due to me, and it will be paid to me within the next 3 months. But because of cash flow, I actually need some cash to hold me through these next 3 months until this customer pays me. So you'll take that invoice to a funder or a company that does invoice financing as proof that you will be able to receive money in the next 3 months, and then they'll actually pay you probably the amount of that invoice now, so that you don't have to wait for your customer to pay you before you continue your business. And then once your customer pays you, you pay that funder back. Okay, does that make sense? So they're just helping you with when the cash comes in. Cool. Yes, that's an option. And then another option is to make use of credit. Just know that this is a little bit more risky. So by credit, I mean like a bank loan, or getting investors to invest in you, and instead of taking a part of your business, you actually owe them money. So this is a very viable option. Many businesses make use of credit to fund expansions or something like that. But know that you'll have to pay that money back whether your business succeeds or not. Okay, so this is a little bit more risky, but still an option to be able to get a little bit more cash in the business so that you can do what is needed to also make your sales and get your customers to pay you, and then you'll pay that credit back. And remember that credit also comes with interest, so you're going to have to pay back more than the amount that you actually borrowed. Okay. Here's my last tip. I know as small businesses, it is usually our source of income and the way and how we survive. But whether that's true or not, keep your business and your personal finances separate. Don't use the same bank account in the first place for your business and for your personal finances. Don't mix expenses. Don't use the business to pay for your personal expenses. And try not to use your personal money to pay for business expenses. Keep those two parties very separate. So, and if it's needed that you actually need to put some investment or some money into your business from your personal money, do it very clearly to show that I took from my own money, that moves and put it into the business as a loan or as owner's capital to show that, okay, me as the business owner is investing into the business, and then from the business you'll go and pay whatever expenses that is needed. You can pay expenses from your personal money for your business, but then make sure that you also show that in your records and make sure that the business actually pays you back for your personal expenses. Those two can easily become very tangled and intertwined, and especially if you're trying to expand the business or get investment from other investors, it looks really, really bad if you're just using the business to fund your lifestyle, and then you pay a little bit into the business, and then the business pays you a little bit, and there's no clear distinction between what is the business's money and what is your own. Okay, that brings me to the end of all the tips about cash flow management and budgeting, etc. I'm going to open the floor for any comments or questions for the last 5 minutes. Yes, David.
So guys, mine is not just like, it's not a question. I just want to share something. Like, I just want to emphasize on the point. I don't remember the exact number of the point, but like you were talking about like getting like allowing professionals to engage on your business. I think it is like a really, really crucial for any business. And it was no like different for my business also. For example, like when I started my business, which is Buna, I had like little experience, in like I had a vision, a plan, and a passion to make it work, but like, like I don't know that I needed help to make it happen. So like I reached out to professionals at that time who had expertise, who were like expertise in the areas which I lacked the experience, for example, such as like accounting and also like legal matters that are directly involved to my business. And like these professionals provided me with valuable like advices on how to structure my business, like navigate, like what do you call it, um, tax regulations, and like also like managing finances. They helped me to set up like booking systems, and also taught me how to manage my cash flow records and stuff like that. So like they really helped me on like on getting like my business on the track, and keep making profits. So I really like, and to summarize, I strongly believe that getting professional help is really essential for any kind of any level business. It can help you to avoid like costly mistakes or expenditures, like as you said, to stay compliant with regulations, and also like ultimately grow and to succeed the market center. So like, yeah, that's what I want to share.
Thank you for sharing, David, and good
Thank
for you
you.
for
Thank
doing
you.
that really early on. It sounds like you actually have your plans in place, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from TK. They're just asking you please reiterate what is invoice financing. Okay, so let me try and explain that again. Um,
Sorry, you lost me again there on the other side. Let me just use this. Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my camera can't switch on this side, but as long as you can hear me. So for invoice financing, let's say you have a customer, you do a contract for them, and you invoice them for $1,000, right? So you've sent them an invoice saying you owe me for this service $1,000, but our agreement is that you're only going to pay it after 30 days. right? Meaning you've delivered the service, you've already bought all the resources that you need, but the customer is actually only going to pay you for that service after 30 days. So now already can you see as a small business, you've spent some money without getting money, which is difficult for a small business if you don't have any reserves. So what invoice financing is you go to a third party that has some money that they are able to borrow you based on that invoice, right? So you go to them, you say, look, here's the proof. I have an invoice. This customer is going to pay me after 30 days, this amount. So meaning there's an assured amount of money that will come in 30 days. Then you ask them, can you pay this invoice for now so that I just have that cash within the business? And then as soon as my customer pays me, I'm going to pay you back for this cash that you gave me for now. TK, I see you're nodding. Do you get it now? Okay, great. Cool. We're almost out of time, but I'll take any other last comment or question that may come up. Okay, doesn't look like there's anything. I know there's a feedback form that is gonna come from the SAFE guys. So please fill that in so that I can also get my feedback. Raj, you can go ahead and tell them about that. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to me today. I hope I was able to add some value, and thank you for being engaging and interactive. Yeah, all the best, guys.